Let's talk about the moment it happens, that small, subtle twist in the air that you almost miss. It's not yelling, it's not a fight, it's that quiet phrase that slides in under your skin and makes you question yourself. The covert hook, you know it, you've heard it. Wow, you're overreacting. I guess you're just too sensitive. You always take things the wrong way, and it lands like a question you can't stop answering. You start defending, you start explaining, you start working to prove that you're not too sensitive, not too dramatic, not too much. But here's the truth: the moment you start explaining your worth, you've already stepped into their game. Because the covert hook isn't about understanding you, it's about controlling you. It's emotional sleight of hand. It flips the light switch in your mind so fast you start to doubt what you felt just a second ago. And that doubt, that's the opening. That's the doorway where control walks in, wearing the mask of concern. See, covert narcissism doesn't show up as arrogance at first. It shows up as confusion. It shows up as charm, as patience, as empathy. That has an expiration date. They'll listen until they sense your vulnerability. Then they'll weaponize it. They'll praise you until they realize you stopped trying to impress them. Then they'll punish you with silence or sarcasm. It's psychological judo. They use your momentum against you. And you know why it works? Because you care, because you lead with empathy, because you're wired for connection, not competition. But that's exactly what makes the covert hook so powerful. It feeds on your decency. It counts on your conscience. It needs you to keep searching for the misunderstanding that never existed. So you replay the moment. You analyze every word. You start to wonder, did I say it wrong? Did I sound harsh? Did I cause this? And that's the trap. Because while you're down there in your head, looping through guilt, they're standing there calm, detached, in control, watching you spin. This is why I call it a hook. Because once you take it, once you bite, you're not just defending your words, you're defending your reality. And that right there is how the covert narcissist maintains control, not through volume, but through suggestion, not through power, but through your reaction to the illusion of power. Here's the psychology underneath it. Every time you defend yourself to someone who isn't listening, your brain learns a dangerous habit. It learns to seek understanding from the wrong source. It releases just enough dopamine when you get a small moment of peace, a smile, an apology, a compliment, that you mistake it for safety. That's not safety. That's intermittent reinforcement. It's conditioning. It's how manipulation becomes a habit your nervous system craves. You don't even realize it's happening. Your body tightens. Your breath shortens. Your mind starts racing to find the right words, the right tone. You start performing emotional gymnastics just to stay in what feels like love, but is actually control. That's the covert hook. It trains you to confuse anxiety with attachment. It teaches you to confuse peace with silence. And it keeps you chasing validation from the very person who withholds it to keep you chasing. But listen to me, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not weak. You're not naive. You're human. You were conditioned to believe that if you just explained better, if you just stayed calmer, if you just loved harder, it would finally make sense. But clarity doesn't come from them. It comes from you. And that's where the shift begins. That's when you start to see what's actually happening. That's when you realize it's not connection you're chasing. It's control you've been trained to tolerate. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And the next time that phrase comes your way, the one that always pulls you back in, you'll feel that familiar tension rise. You'll feel that urge to explain. And that's when you do something different. You count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you walk, because awareness without action keeps you stuck. But awareness followed by action, that's how you break the pattern. That's the psychology of the covert hook. It's not loud, it's quiet. It's not obvious, it's disguised. It's not love, it's leverage. And now you know exactly what it looks like. Now that you see the game, let's talk about how you stop playing it. because awareness is the first crack in the wall, but action is the sledgehammer. And the simplest, most powerful way to take back control of your brain and your peace is with something so small it almost feels silly. The 5-second rule. 5 seconds. That's all you get before your emotions hijack your logic, before your nervous system floods, before you get pulled right back into the trap. 5 seconds between calm and chaos. 5 seconds between reacting and reclaiming. And here's what's wild. Your brain is hardwired to protect patterns, even the painful ones. That's why when someone triggers you, your body doesn't wait for your mind's permission. It just reacts. It leaps into defense. It rushes to fix. It rushes to please, because that's what it's practiced. And what your brain practices, it perfects. So when that hook lands, when you hear you're too sensitive, or you're overreacting, or you're making things up, your body goes on autopilot. You feel your pulse rise, your chest tighten, your throat close. You're about to respond. You want to explain. You want to prove you're good. But that's the moment, that's the exact space where your power lives. This is where the 5-second rule comes in. You count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you interrupt the autopilot. That countdown cuts off the emotional freefall. It activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes decisions, the part that's logical, the part that protects you instead of the pattern. That countdown is your reset button. It doesn't fix them. It frees you. Because here's what happens when you don't count. You react. You defend. You argue with a brick wall and call it communication. And then you leave the moment feeling smaller than when you entered it. But when you count down, something incredible happens. You pull the emergency brake on that emotional roller coaster. You shift from reacting to choosing. You choose not to engage. You choose not to explain. You choose to stand in your clarity, not drown in confusion. And yes, the first few times, it feels awkward. It feels mechanical. It feels like, Mel, come on. How is counting backwards going to help me when I'm furious or shaking? I'll tell you how. Because when you count, you move your focus from your emotional brain to your thinking brain. You stop spinning in their words and start stabilizing in your own awareness. And here's the truth. Nobody tells you regulation is rebellion. When you stay calm in the presence of manipulation, you break the unspoken rule of the game. You refuse to feed it. You refuse to mirror it. You refuse to make their chaos your responsibility. So next time that conversation starts to twist, you feel that tightness building, and you know the bait's about to drop, stop and say nothing. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do something that physically moves you toward peace. Step out of the room, take a breath, touch the door frame, drink some water, anything that reminds your body, I am safe and I am not reacting. You're training your nervous system to respond to you again, not to them. You're reprogramming the muscle memory of your emotions. You're teaching your brain that peace is not passive, it's powerful. Because what's really happening when you use the 5-second rule isn't just a countdown, it's a declaration. It's you saying, I decide when I speak. I decide when I engage. I decide how I feel. That's what reclaiming your brain looks like. That's what breaking the cycle feels like. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's a quiet, disciplined shift inside your chest, that calm click that says, no more. And here's the thing they'll notice. The first time you don't react, they'll look confused. The second time, they'll push harder. But the third time, they'll start to lose traction. Because you can't control how they act, but you can absolutely control what you feed. And when you stop feeding the chaos starves. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walk. That's how you reclaim your brain. Let me tell you what happens the first time you don't react. It's quiet. Almost too quiet. You hear the jab, the bait, and this time you count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You walk. You don't explain. You don't argue. You just leave. And for a moment, it feels powerful. You think, I did it. I finally broke the pattern. But then something strange starts to happen. Your mind starts racing. Your chest feels tight. You wonder if you overreacted by not reacting. You feel this pull, this ache, like your body is begging you to go back, to fix it, to make it right. That right there is the emotional withdrawal reflex. It's your nervous system detoxing from chaos. Because when you've been trained to survive on emotional highs and lows, calm feels empty. Silence feels wrong. Peace feels like loss. You're not missing them. You're missing the adrenaline. You're missing the familiar rhythm of arguing, apologizing, reconciling. It's not love you're craving, it's relief. And here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't care if the relief comes from peace or from pain. It just wants the cycle to complete. So it whispers things like, maybe I should text. Maybe I should explain one more time. Maybe I should just make it right. No, that's not clarity speaking. That's conditioning. It's your body begging for what it used to call safety. Let me say this clearly. You're not weak for wanting to go back. You're not broken for missing the person who hurt you. You're human. Your body has been wired to chase tension and call it connection. But this moment of withdrawal is the proof that you're healing. Because the space you're feeling right now, that's not emptiness. That's freedom trying to breathe. You've spent so long filling every quiet moment with overthinking, apologizing, explaining. And now you're just sitting in it. No noise, no chase, no chaos. It's uncomfortable because it's new. But new isn't wrong. It's unfamiliar. Here's what I want you to do. When the withdrawal hits, don't fight the silence. Don't rush to fill it. Let it stretch. Let it teach you what peace actually feels like. Every time you resist the urge to reach back, you rewire your nervous system. Every time you don't respond, you teach your brain that calm is safe. Every time you count down and walk, you're building emotional muscle. Because the truth is, recovery isn't one big decision. It's 1,000 small ones. Every time you choose quiet over chaos, you're healing. Every time you choose stillness over explanation, you're changing. Every time you don't go back, you're proving that peace is possible. That's the withdrawal reflex, and it's temporary. It's the bridge between the old you, who needed to be understood, and the new you, who understands yourself. So when the silence feels heavy, remind yourself, it's not loneliness, it's detox. It's your nervous system coming home. And the more you let it, the lighter you'll become. You're not losing anything. You're reclaiming everything. Now that you've learned to pause, to hold your reaction, to breathe instead of bite, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to rewire the entire dynamic. Because here's the truth. Narcissistic or manipulative people don't feed on love. They feed on energy. They don't crave connection. They crave control. And control only works if you keep responding. Every sigh, every long text explaining yourself, every tear, every attempt to be understood, that's fuel. That's supply. That's the invisible current that keeps their game alive. So when you stop reacting, you're not ignoring them, you're unplugging the power source. You're cutting off the emotional electricity that runs their system. And when you do that, everything starts to short circuit. The first thing they'll feel is confusion. They'll say, you've changed. They'll poke at your silence, test your patience, try to provoke a spark. Why? Because silence to them isn't peace, it's loss of control. But to you, silence becomes sacred. It becomes your protection, your strategy, your declaration, I will no longer play. And let's get one thing straight. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean avoidance. It means you are strong enough to stop dancing to music you didn't choose. Every time you resist the urge to defend, you're re-educating your brain. Every time you don't reply to a guilt-tripping message, you're teaching your nervous system, we don't chase chaos anymore. This is how you rewire the dynamic, not by convincing them to change, but by changing what you feed, because energy is a transaction. Whatever you give attention to, you grow. Whatever you withdraw attention from withers. And here's something powerful. You can't fight manipulation with explanation. You fight it with emotional discipline. You fight it by being unbothered, unattached, unshaken. The covert manipulator thrives on one thing: your engagement. They don't care whether you yell, cry, or reason. They just need to know they can move you, that they can reach inside your piece and rearrange it. So the moment you stop reacting, the dynamic collapses. They lose leverage because you've stopped lending them your emotional energy. They can't reach you anymore. Think of it this way. If someone keeps pushing a door that's no longer attached to the wall, what happens? They fall through. That's what happens when you remove your reaction. They fall into their own emptiness. Now, I want you to practice what I call non-reaction with awareness. That means you don't respond out of impulse, but you do respond with intention when it serves your peace. Sometimes that's a boundary. Sometimes it's a simple statement. Sometimes it's walking away. Let me give you an example. When someone says, "You're imagining things," instead of defending, you calmly say, "When you talk to me like that, I'm not staying in this conversation." And then walk away. That's not avoidance. That's authority. You're not trying to win the argument. You're choosing peace over performance. And yes, they'll notice the difference. They'll feel the distance. They'll panic a little. Because the moment you go calm, not cold, but calm, their system loses its grip. They can't compute it. They can't control it. They start to realize that the old buttons don't work anymore. And that's when you know you're healing, when their triggers stop triggering you. When you stop answering the call to chaos. When you finally understand that silence isn't the absence of communication, it's the presence of power. This is how you rewire the dynamic, by mastering your response, not their behavior. You become the calm in the storm. You stop mirroring their madness and start modeling peace. And every time you choose that peace, your brain learns, I'm not at war anymore. I'm not chasing anymore. I'm free. Because that's what non-reaction really is. It's freedom disguised as stillness. It's you saying, I don't need to be right to be at peace. And the more you practice it, the more untouchable you become. So now that you've stopped reacting, now that you've chosen calm over chaos, you're going to notice something. There's space where the noise used to be, and that space can feel strange. Because for so long, you've measured your worth by how well you could manage other people's moods. You've built your sense of safety on how smoothly you could walk through someone else's storm. You've lived in emotional survival mode, always scanning, always predicting, always explaining. And now it's quiet, too quiet. And in that silence, a question rises. Who am I when I'm not fixing someone else? That's the work of reconstruction, rebuilding you. This is where you start learning how to trust yourself again. Not the version of you that over-explained, over-apologized, or overgave. The version underneath that. The one who always knew what peace felt like, but forgot how to listen to it. Here's the truth. After being controlled, your biggest wound isn't the manipulation, it's the self-doubt that follows it. You stopped trusting your instincts because every time you had a feeling, someone told you it was wrong. You stopped trusting your memory because they kept rewriting history. You stopped trusting your boundaries because they kept calling them selfish. So your first step isn't to trust them again, it's to trust you. And here's how you do it moment by moment. When you feel that gut whisper, this doesn't feel right, you pause, count down, and honor it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't explain it. You don't justify it. You just act on it. That's what rebuilding self-trust looks like. Tiny acts of alignment. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even something small like, I'm not answering that message tonight, you build trust. Every time you say no and stick to it, your confidence grows. Every time you choose rest over rumination, your nervous system learns, we're safe now. You see, trauma teaches your brain that safety lives outside of you, in their approval, their attention, their mood. But healing teaches your brain that safety lives inside of you in your breath, in your decisions, in your silence. You start realizing, I don't need their validation to feel whole. I don't need to be understood to know my truth. I don't need closure to move forward. That's what self-trust sounds like. And you'll notice something else. The more you trust yourself, the less tolerance you have for manipulation. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop apologizing for your peace. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never built for your fullness. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the natural posture of someone who remembers who they are. And yes, the people who benefited from your self-doubt won't like your new confidence. They'll call you distant, cold, different. And you'll smile because they're right. You are different. You're grounded now. You're clear. You're no longer trying to earn love by losing yourself. That's the reconstruction phase. It's not glamorous. It's not fast, but it's holy work because every boundary you honor becomes a brick in the foundation of your peace. Every moment you say, I trust myself, you lay another stone. And one day you'll look around and realize the home you were trying to build inside someone else now exists within you. You'll stand in that peace and you'll know I'm safe because I protect me. I'm strong because I believe me. I'm free because I finally trust me. And that, my friend, is the quiet beginning of your new life. Now that you've rebuilt a foundation of self-trust, the next chapter is about something even more sacred, protecting your peace. Because peace is not a one-time victory. It's a daily practice. It's something you earn with choices, moment by moment, breath by breath. And here's the truth. You can't wait for peace to arrive. You have to choose it. You have to build habits that make it possible. That's what I call the peace protocol. Small, intentional actions that keep you aligned with your power. Let's start with the first one. 1, the no contact detox. If someone has trained you to live on emotional chaos, the first step to healing is distance. Physical, digital, emotional. No contact isn't punishment. It's protection. It's you saying, I'm not feeding this system anymore. And yes, it's going to be hard. You'll be tempted to check, to peek, to see what they're posting, to reread old messages. That's normal. That's withdrawal. When the urge hits, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put the phone down. Walk away. Every time you do that, you strengthen your peace muscle. The 5-second grounding drill. Every time you feel your anxiety spike, a sound, a name, a memory, don't spiral. Ground yourself with the rule. 5, notice your breath. 4, feel your feet on the floor. 3, find something real in your space. Texture, temperature, light. 2, say to yourself, I'm safe. 1, move your body, even slightly. That's how you remind your nervous system that the danger is over and the control has returned to you. 3, the 1 rule per room ritual. Peace isn't just a feeling, it's an environment. And sometimes the environment has to change before the emotions can follow. So here's the rule. Every room in your space should have 1 clear boundary. In the kitchen, maybe the rule is no heavy conversations here. In your bedroom, no phone after knee. At your desk, only what nourishes my mind belongs here. These boundaries seem simple, but they retrain your body to associate space with safety again. 4, the energy audit. Every morning, before you pick up your phone, ask yourself 1 question. Who or what gets my energy today? Not everyone deserves access to your attention. And if you don't choose where your energy goes, someone else will choose for you. This is how you stop giving your peace away in tiny, invisible ways. Woo calm, the reflection reset. At night, take 3 minutes to write down 1 thing you did well that day. It could be, I didn't text back, or I took a breath instead of explaining myself. Or maybe I said no and meant it. These are not small wins, they're neural rewires. You're teaching your brain to notice progress instead of pain. The circle of safety. You cannot heal in isolation forever. Eventually, you'll need connection again, but healthy, grounded connection. That means people who don't drain you, who don't need to be managed, who don't make you prove your worth just to belong. One of the most powerful sentences you'll ever say is, I don't have to earn my place here. If someone makes you feel like you do, they don't belong in your circle. The calm commitment. Every morning, make this vow to yourself. Today, I choose calm over chaos, clarity over control, peace over performance. And then, live from that vow, write it on a sticky note, set it as your phone wallpaper, repeat it when your body wants to react. Because peace is not the absence of triggers, it's the mastery of your response. It's the moment when you stop matching other people's dysfunction with your energy. It's when you realize you don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. The peace protocol isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing presence over and over again until peace becomes your natural state. You'll notice that the same people who once rattled you will eventually sound like background noise. You'll stop over-explaining. You'll stop doubting. You'll stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Because peace is not passive, it's powerful. It's your new baseline, your home frequency. And once you've felt it, you'll do whatever it takes to keep it. That's how you stay free, not by fighting chaos, but by mastering calm. You've made it through the hardest part, the silence, the withdrawal, the rebuilding, the discipline of peace. Now comes the most beautiful part of this entire journey. Integration. This is where the lesson stops being about them and starts being about you. Because healing isn't about escaping someone else's story. It's about rewriting your own. You've spent so much time surviving other people's chaos that you forgot what your own energy feels like when it's not being drained. So let's talk about what happens when you start living from that energy again, when peace becomes your default and clarity becomes your compass. This is where love and power get redefined. Because for a long time, you thought love meant endurance. You thought love was sacrifice. You thought being the bigger person meant carrying the emotional weight for two. But now, you know better. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's depletion. Forgiveness without accountability isn't healing, it's enabling. And power? Power isn't control. Power is calm. It's knowing that you can walk away without burning everything down. It's being able to sit in silence and feel safe inside your own body. That's real power. When you stop chasing closure, when you stop seeking validation, when you stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you, you step into something much higher than revenge or righteousness. You step into alignment, and alignment is the most magnetic thing in the world. Because when you stand in your truth, not to convince, not to defend, but simply to be, you radiate a peace that other people can feel. That's the energy of someone who's done the work. That's the energy of someone who no longer confuses being needed with being loved. You start seeing everything differently. You realize that the relationships you attract now match your boundaries, not your wounds. You stop rescuing people from lessons they need to learn. You stop explaining your empathy to those who only want to exploit it. And you begin to build a life that mirrors your growth. Your friendships get clearer. Your voice gets stronger. Your choices get cleaner. You stop asking, why did they treat me that way? And start asking, why did I tolerate it for so long? Not as blame, but as awareness. Because accountability isn't punishment. It's power. And once you have that kind of awareness, everything changes. You begin to understand that real love, healthy love, doesn't shrink you. It expands you. It doesn't demand your silence. It celebrates your truth. It doesn't ask you to dim your light. It wants to stand beside it. So from this moment on, love isn't about fixing, proving, or pleasing. Love is about alignment, two whole people choosing peace over power struggles. And when it comes to your own life, your own purpose, your own healing, this is where you start creating instead of reacting. The same 5-second rule that helped you walk away from chaos now becomes the rule that launches your next chapter. 5 seconds to send the email, 5 seconds to take the risk, 5 seconds to say yes to what scares you but aligns with your peace, 5 seconds to step into the version of yourself that chaos tried to erase. Because what the narcissist, the manipulator, the controller never expected was your awakening. They thought breaking you would destroy you, but it rebuilt you. They thought silence would weaken you, but it became your sanctuary. They thought control would define you, but it reminded you that you've had the power all along. And that power isn't loud. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't chase applause. It just is. Steady, quiet, whole. That's evolution. That's what healing looks like. That's what it means to rise, not in anger, not in revenge, but in truth. You've stopped living for reaction. You're living for creation now. You're no longer fighting for peace, you're building from it. And that is what makes you unstoppable. This is where it all comes full circle. That moment, the one that once felt so small, when you finally decided, no more, that was the moment your life began to change. Because the last time they said it, you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, you're imagining things you didn't explain, you didn't defend, you didn't fight to be understood. You counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you walked, and that quiet step, that simple act of walking away was not weakness. It was wisdom. It was clarity taking form. It was the moment you stopped needing to win someone else's game and started building your own peace. You see, walking away isn't about punishment. It's not about proving a point. It's about protecting your power. It's the choice that says, I don't need your chaos to feel alive anymore. For so long, you thought strength meant staying. You thought love meant enduring. You thought being loyal meant losing pieces of yourself to keep the peace. But now peace doesn't come from people who keep you guessing. It comes from knowing who you are and refusing to betray that truth ever again. That's what walking away really is, not an ending, but a return to self-respect, a return to sanity, a return to peace. And I want you to remember this. The last time they messed with you wasn't the end of their control. It was the beginning of your evolution. Because from that moment forward, your silence started speaking louder than any argument ever could. Your calm became your power. Your distance became your clarity. And your peace, your beautiful, hard-earned peace, became your rebellion. You don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not your worth, not your goodness, not your heart. The people meant for you will feel your energy and respect it. They won't test your boundaries. They'll honor them. They won't demand your silence. They'll celebrate your truth. And you'll never have to explain your peace again. Because now you know that peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It's your proof that you've outgrown the need for chaos to feel significant. And from this day on, when you hear that little voice rise inside your chest, that calm click that says enough, you'll listen. You'll count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll walk, not in anger, not in fear, but in freedom, because the moment you walk isn't when you lose something. It's when you return to everything you were always meant to be.